Here is how you can work with track mattes inside of Kdenlive. There are two approaches, each with pros and cons and workarounds. Our first approach will be using two separate clips overlapping on the timeline. It's a very straightforward process. I'll start by adding the background clip, which will be our urban scene over here. I'll place it on track V1. Then I'll import the nature clip, which will be the content of our matte. So I'll place it above our urban scene. And finally, I'll use a title clip over here. And this title clip has transparency. The black background is actually transparent. Now I can trim it to fit the size, add a composition layer, and then switch its type to alpha in. And now it will limit the visibility of our nature scene inside of the text. You also have the option to use alpha out, which will simply cut a hole in the nature scene. The same goes for any image that has an alpha channel. So this shape over here does have an alpha. The surrounding borders are actually transparent. And now I have this example here, which doesn't have any alpha. So if I put the one with no alpha in the scene, you can see that it's cropping it to the visible content, which is simply the shape of this over here. Now, a workaround for this is to simply look up Luma key, add it to either the clip on the timeline or in the project bin. And all this will do is eliminate the dark parts. So it's going to remove the black and only leave the white. Now, if you'd like to invert this, so you can simply look for invert, place it before the Luma key on the timeline, or place it directly on the clip inside of the project bin, and it will invert the values. If you place it after the Luma key, nothing will happen, so make sure to place it above the Luma key. And that is it for method number one. Method number two is slightly different in the sense that, if I turn this off here, I'm going to apply it to the nature clip. We're going to go into the effects and look for shape. You can either use shape alpha or shape alpha mask, or use shape alpha. Now we have to look for either the image or video clip that we'd like to use for this effect. You can't use image sequences, and your videos must have a transparent background. But there is a workaround for this. So I'm going to use the no alpha one to demonstrate this. And as you can see, nothing here is happening. To fix this, I'm going to check on Luma, and you can either adjust the threshold or uncheck threshold. Also, you might notice that the shape has now been deformed. That is another caveat with this effect, is that you must have an image or video clip that is the same aspect ratio as the project that you're working in. You also have the option to invert the values, but for this, you need to have threshold turned on. Let's adjust it, and now we can flip between the two. And for those of you wondering how I made the transition animation, well, quite simply, I used the first method and I added a transform to the text and I scaled it up gradually as it went on. And I moved the position to make sure that the T over here would cover the entire frame. That way, when it continues, it can simply continue on to the nature track without any issues. Now, if you want to learn more about Kdenlive, you can click on this playlist up here, and thanks for watching.